The Cleveland Browns are headed back to work this week after their bye week. For many who anticipated perhaps some change for the Cleveland Browns offense, there is some coming, but not in the way that I think most people were hoping for or most people wanted. But there is a change coming. We'll break down all that and more. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network begins now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate each and every one of you that come on out to the OBR every day for the best Cleveland Browns content there is, whether it is all the written form over on the OBR.com from our incredible group of writers. While you're there, please look into the Insider package. You will have access to the Insider forums. Ask the Insiders. Your subscription will get bundled with Paramount Plus, a huge gift come January when all the UFC action switches over there. For everyone and their continued support of the OBR streaming network come out daily, we thank you so much. Browns 3D beginning every day at 6 p.m. Eastern. Make sure, of course, that you are subscribed to the OBR on YouTube and, of course, the OBR over on Twitch. With the Browns getting back to business this week and Kevin Stefanski's press conference today, I think a lot of people were hoping for, and maybe over the last couple of days, maybe starting to wane in that hope was going to turn into fruition. The Cleveland Browns announced that Dillon Gabriel will be the starting quarterback this week against the New York Jets. The New York Jets have yet to name a starter after Justin Fields had his best day and won a game on the road in their last game. Interesting, but probably not much to it. Dillon Gabriel will remain the starter for the Cleveland Browns. There is a change, though, as far as the Cleveland Browns offense is concerned, heading into Sunday's matchup with the Jets. Kevin Stefanski has handed the play calling duties off to offense coordinator Tommy Rees. I think a lot of people are going to read into this and interpret this probably the way they hope things are going to work out. I think a lot of people think, that this is maybe the end for Kevin Stefanski. I personally don't see it that way. With 9 games to go here in the 2025 season, and again, if Kevin Stefanski were essentially walking the plank towards losing his job, I just don't see how somebody with their job on the line would have somebody else call the plays in the hopes of saving their job. If Tommy Rees can get this offense to play better, be more successful, accumulate more yards, accumulate more points, that's great for the Browns. It certainly wouldn't be that great for Kevin Stefanski. I don't think anybody whose job would be on the line would be in a position where they are allowing somebody else to either A, sink their battleship, or B, do the job they were doing with the possibility of doing it better, which of course would sink Kevin Stefanski's battleship. I think this could be somewhat of an indictment and maybe throwing a bone to Tommy Rees. There are a lot of college head coaching opportunities open right now. And of course, none of us truly know what Tommy Rees's true intentions and true wishes are as far as coaching, whether it's in the professional ranks or whether it's in the collegiate ranks. But Tommy Rees, a couple years removed from being the offense coordinator at Alabama, certainly is a name that would probably be considered into some of these collegiate openings. Colleges are looking to go younger right now. The older coaches are not huge fans of NIL. It brings in a whole other aspect to the head coaching job that not necessarily a lot of head coaches at the collegiate level feel A, they have the time for, or B, truly want to go down this road where they're negotiating with high school kids and their families over guaranteed money. A guy like Tommy Rees, been around it a little bit at Alabama, certainly was there for the final year of Nick Saban and saw firsthand how it was one of the reasons that had one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football kind of walk away from the game. It was a world that Nick Saban just got tired of and just didn't want to be around much longer. Now, in regards to Stefanski, again, now this, of course, did happen last year, and we know how it all worked out, and it blew up, and Ken Dorsey was fired. All of this, of course, nobody is doubting that the Browns' offense could use some sort of jump start. But why I think there's some belief here that, as much as nobody wants to hear it, and I get it. If you're done with Kevin Stefanski, I can totally see it. I'm not saying I'm in that crowd. I'm also saying I kind of believe the owner at his word that he doesn't, and what we've heard from him doesn't sound like he's planning to move on from this regime after this year. This team certainly is in a heavy evaluation mode for the remaining 9 games. You're going to evaluate, obviously, all of your offensive line. Right now, your 5 starters are all on expiring contracts. The Browns need to work through that, see if any of these 5 expiring contracts is something they want to consider going down the road with at least a little bit longer. You're evaluating the wide receiver position, evaluating, of course, the running back room, certainly continuing the evaluation of your rookie quarterbacks, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, who the Browns say is better. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming we'll find out when the Browns do actually hit the practice field. Cedric Tillman will return to practice this week. The belief is that Cedric Tillman will be ready to roll Sunday against the Jets. The Browns released veteran reserve safety DeMonte Casey. Hasn't dressed in a month, so there's no real surprise there. And again, at 2-6, I don't think there's any reason they're going to try to, find playing time for DeMonte Casey. But you look at all those wide receivers, of course, and Jerry Jeudy is here. I don't, even if the Browns were interested in moving him, I don't think there's anything of any substance that anybody's going to offer for Jerry Jeudy, who, as good as he looked in 2024, certainly looks, the Jekyll to the Hyde of that here in 2025. Circumstances obviously affecting that, and we all know, of course. Cedric Tillman, certainly a name on that list as well. Isaiah Bond, you're kind of stuck with. Jamari Thrash certainly deserves more reps. Gage Lavardane certainly deserves more reps. We'll see the way that, of course, all plays out. David Njoku has been a popular name as far as, trade conversations. I think most of it's probably coming from fans. And again, you're just trying to, basically find the connecting dots, and the connecting dots are that David Njoku is on an expiring contract. Obviously, David is not the player that Myles Garrett is, but I think David Njoku is held in high regard within the front office of Cleveland, within the coaching offices of Cleveland, and within the locker room with the Cleveland Browns. If David Njoku is interested in remaining in Cleveland, I don't see that the Cleveland Browns are in a position where they are going to move on from that. I think the Browns, in every aspect, would probably like to continue the David Njoku relationship. Can this team play better in the second half offensively? One you have an advantage of, you're going to play some weaker competition. Jets, Raiders, Bengals, Titans. There are a couple of Goliaths coming, though. You're going to get the Bills again. You're going to see the Ravens again, a team that's improving. Another battle with the Steelers. This team just needs to find a way to function better on the offensive side of the ball. It's crushing the defense, although the defense does have their own issues themselves, certainly on the road. But it's all about the offensive side of the ball for the Cleveland Browns. It's just a pretty ugly picture right now. And as good as Quinshawn Judkins has been in his rookie year as a running back, it's not been as good as the Browns were with their running game in the prime era of Nick Chubb. And again, I don't think a lot of that is on Quinshawn Judkins. I think he is making the best of a very poor offense. So Quinshawn Judkins and what he's been doing to this point has probably been more impressive than I think people are trying to give credit for. I think it'll be fantastic back once you have a decent offensive line in place, and once there is probably some threat of a passing game from this offense. Is Gabriel still your starter because Cleveland thinks he's the best man for the job? Is he still the starter because maybe Shador Sanders, with some sort of back ailment, is not ready to play? Certainly possible. Look, I said it before he was starting that I thought it was time to see what Dillon Gabriel had. And now, after a month of seeing Dillon Gabriel, I will say I think I've seen enough. His physical limitations maybe are just enough that are holding him back from any opportunity to possibly, and most likely, be a starting quarterback within the NFL. Great mind, smart guy. Comes down to ability, unfortunately. The evaluation of a lot of this on offense is certainly hampered, no question, by the quarterback play. The Browns are not throwing enough, not throwing nearly with enough accuracy and success and opening up of the field to truly evaluate any of these guys at the receiver position. because to be fair, at this point, you should start to see hopefully some signs of growth from all these young guys. There's just not enough opportunity. There's not enough targets. There's not enough catchable balls to form that type of opinion. So, yeah, evaluation here is extremely, extremely difficult. I don't think anybody saw the play calling duties changing like they have, which is understandable, of course. And, you know, I guess that's what last week came to one of the decisions for the Browns. Again, I don't think this is an indictment that Kevin Stefanski is out of here. Could he have been asked to do this? Certainly could have been. Are they trying to maybe put, a little bit more on Tommy Rees's plate? Certainly. And if it is an opportunity and you're throwing a bone here to Tommy Rees, I'll be honest, I'm Tommy Rees. I'm good. This offense, hard to expect Tommy Rees to go out there and, make this offense kind of look any better than it's been to this point. But if he does, good on him. And certainly good for all of us, I would say, right? And certainly good for, the offensive skill players. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here, Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. Of course, make sure you subscribe to the OBR on YouTube and, of course, over on Twitch. Later this evening, Gang of Three, Lane Atkins, of course, Barry McBride and Pete Smith. Trade deadline from the time of this recording, 23 hours away. Apparently, Mike Hall, who's apparently never on social media, dropped a tweet which was just trade with a couple of dots after it. Quickly taken down. Don't know what it means. And the Browns, and again, rumors, right? Rumored to be looking to possibly acquire young talent. Not necessarily sure what that would mean as far as what you're moving on from. And Mike Hall, I guess it's been one game back. So I'm not necessarily sure anybody's running to trade for Mike Hall Jr. Could it have been possibly the excitement of someone he knows headed to Cleveland? I don't know. Could Mike Hall have just been hacked? Certainly possible. You think about what's usually one of the most top looked for commodities around the NFL trade deadline. Usually number one on that list is pass rushers. We know Miles ain't going nowhere. Alex Wright, I would look to extend. As far as pecking order, I would say Alex Wright has now jumped back over Isaiah McGuire. And it's been kind of interesting in, the years that these two have been here in Cleveland together, because there's been times where it felt like Alex Wright was above McGuire in the pecking order. Then there were times where it felt like McGuire was above Wright in the pecking order. I would say right now, Alex Wright is probably lead dog in that regard. McGuire's still got another year after this. So I don't know necessarily why moving him would, be a thought process. If there is an obvious candidate on the Cleveland Browns defensive line who would be moved, it certainly would be, Shelby Harris, another guy on an expiring contract. Certainly can rush the passer a little bit from the interior. He's actually played extremely well to this point with Graham Collins, Mike Hall back, Aiden Huntington. Not really sure what the point would be in keeping Shelby Harris around here for another 9 games. It's not like he's this long tenured Cleveland Brown. I doubt he's, down at Cleveland Browns brass and basically said, "Oh, please, can I stay here? I want to finish out my days here." Guy's been everywhere within the league, certainly in some places more than once. Moving on from DeMonte Casey, I'm sure Browns probably had him floated out there. And Casey actually is leaving $200,000 on the table to get himself to the open market. Maybe he goes back to Pittsburgh. Usually when a guy makes a move like that for Casey, most likely they probably already know where their destination is going to be. Maybe he goes to a team like the Colts. Maybe he goes to, is there a spot on a contender? And as far as like the rumors of, the Browns interested in, acquiring more young talent. Well, first off, who isn't? Who isn't in the market for acquiring more young talent? Make kind of makes no sense, I guess. Everybody wants young talent. I guess they figure that Browns just have, the ammunition and the firepower to do so. We're not going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars winning yesterday. You know, Jacksonville may fall apart, and I hope they do. We all do. But, can't get up in arms that the Jaguars beat the Raiders. One move in the NFL to this point, defensive end Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins will be going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming off an injury last year, an expiring contract, and the Philadelphia Eagles gave up a top 100 pick for him for the rest of the regular season and a playoff run. Certainly not a move the Browns would be in any way whatsoever. Jets this week, which will certainly be interesting because the Jets looked god awful up until they went out to Cincinnati. And certainly one of the better Justin Fields starts, certainly his best start with the New York Jets. As to why he's not named starter by Aaron Glenn, I really don't know. I mean, is it a mind game, something of that nature? I got to be honest. I have no idea, to be honest with you. It makes no sense. Everybody seems to be. I'm sorry, just checking to see if we got anything we got to check in on here. Certainly with the giving the play call, laying duties to Tommy Rees, is it a tank job? I don't think the Browns have to tank. Right now, their offense is certainly doing it for them. This team is the way they're currently playing is probably going to finish, in my guess, I would say no worse than top 5 as far as having, their draft choice 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And at times, I didn't think they were as bad as teams like the Saints or Tennessee or even the Jets. But watching this offense over the last month, it's hard to believe that you would say that they're better than maybe anybody right now. It didn't work out, obviously, and you guys can get into the Joe Flacco thing, whatever you want. First things first, you got Jamar Chase and you got T. Higgins. That should equate 2 points in yards. The Browns don't have anybody like that at the wide receiver position. And Joe Flacco, while quarterbacking the Cincinnati Bengals, has a record of 1-3. While Dillon Gabriel, quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns, has a record of 1-3. Joe was playing horribly when he was quarterbacking the Browns. And no, nobody's going to tell me differently. So we can't look at what he's doing with the Bengals and equate that to anything he could have possibly been doing here. I don't want to hear it. It's a weak conversation to have. And in the grand scheme of things, Joe Flacco at 40 years old is, nobody's future. The one hope the Bengals had is that maybe they could tread some water with Joe Flacco. It certainly has not happened. Good for Joe. Absolutely good for Joe. But what's it going to mean for anything in the long run? Nothing. Browns certainly have some injured guys that we're going to wait to hear on this week. Aiden Huntington. Of course, Carson Swessinger. Quinshon Judkins' shoulder. Although it seems like Quinshon Judkins has certainly been making the the podcast circuit during the bye week. And I'm not saying that to be like snide. I don't, go talk to me. It's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. So, especially certainly during the bye, of course. I think we're all now to the realization that 2025 is over. If you were smart, you realize that 2025 was never going to be. But there's nothing wrong with all of us saying, God damn it, we want some improvement. Can I see something that resembles an NFL offense? I get that the veteran quarterback was never there to be had. So I understand you're kind of pigeonholed with all of this youth trying to grow together at the same time, which isn't the best recipe by any means whatsoever. And obviously, we've got 8 weeks and 8 games to show us the way and show us the work that is not the best plan. And I said last week, if if you're ready for Shador, I don't disagree with you necessarily. But what if the product does not improve with Shador Sanders? Does anybody want to see a December of, Bailey Zappi? Because if Shador doesn't play well, what are you going to do? Throw Dillon Gabriel back in? I mean, you could. Theoretically, obviously, you certainly could. But if you deem that Dillon Gabriel wasn't good enough and then you put Shador in and he proves that he's not good enough, there really is no plan after that. So your highlights of the day, Kevin Stefanski has given up play calling duties to offense coordinator Tommy Rees. We will all think into that and try to have that fit our own agendas, I assume. I don't hide it. I like Andrew Berry and I like Kevin Stefanski. But for the first time in a long time, I can understand and I can listen to and I can believe arguments on why one, the other, or both could be moved on from. I just think they're going to get 2026, and then that'll be the ultimate decision. Appreciate everybody for all the support, of course, over at theobr.com. Fantastic, in my opinion, Cleveland Browns coverage. While you're there, look into the insider package, ask the insiders, insider forums, have your subscription bundled with Paramount Plus. And we thank everybody for all their support here for the OBR streaming network. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, of course, over on Twitch. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Rounds 3D on the OBR streaming network. And we will talk to y'all tomorrow.